Hey everyone, today I've got my Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker spoiler review. Now I had seen this movie twice now. I'm probably willing to go in for a third outing before the end of the year, just so I can have my fill of everything Star Wars before Disney, Bob Iger, and even Kathleen Kennedy probably single-handedly, drown this franchise and, burn it to the ground. Because, there were a lot of high expectations for how this franchise was supposed to go, and obviously there are a lot of upset fans, and maybe some people were really happy with how this ended, so everything is off the table. I am going to be talking about everything spoilery, so if you hadn't seen the movie yet, this is probably not the video for you, so you probably want to see it and then come back here. I am literally excited to be talking about spoilers because I was afraid I was going to, hopefully not spoil anything in my non-spoiler review, which you guys can check out on my channel. And for this one, I first want to start off with talking about, what this whole movie was about. Now, after the intro credits rolled in, the title credits rolled in, and it's all about Emperor Palpatine's return because everybody's trying to find his location. Now, I found it really interesting with the way that they wanted to go about that, because we were thinking at the end of Return of the Jedi, what exactly happened to Emperor Palpatine? How did he survive? And, where did he end up going? The way to finding him was using these pyramid things that everybody had to locate, and they were like these crystals, and it had this map, kind of like how people were able to locate Luke Skywalker on that island. But I'll get into Luke Skywalker a little bit later. And so I found it to be this turning point in the story where it just seemed to be the focus of this movie was on the Emperor, and I was thinking, okay, since the first trailer, what was so important about the Emperor's return, and what makes him so special in the whole grand scheme of things? When you do eventually see the reveal of Palpatine, he looks absolutely freaky. His eyes are glazed over. He looks like he's had worse for wear. He's sort of all skeletal-like, but he's eventually trying to regenerate himself, and maybe that's why he needed Rey to eventually show up, and even Kylo Ren. I found it really interesting how the first person we see is Kylo Ren, and I can't even tell half the time if he's actually playing the side of good or, going back to the dark side. But when he eventually encounters Palpatine, okay, what's going on here? But then Palpatine wants to find Rey, so okay, another guy wants to kill Rey now, but she's nobody, right? And speaking of Rey, she has lightning powers. So when I first saw her reveal this power, unlike any other Force powers that she's had, she used them trying to bring down Kylo Ren's ship. Now, I'm thinking, okay, what is going on? That's where I had my aha moment, and thinking, okay, are we seeing a pattern here with the need for Palpatine to find Rey having these lightning powers? You're starting to see where I'm getting here? I think you know what I am trying to say, but I will get into it, trust me. She had some cool stunts in this movie, flying over Kylo Ren's ship, but then when she brings it down, I went crazy. When you have the return of Han Solo, I was just like, this is like when Pa Kent returned to Clark in Justice League. So I thought, it was kind of sad to see him return, and I wish that he was with Luke and Leia one last time. And speaking of getting the band back together, we've even got the return of Luke Skywalker, but via a Force ghost to Rey. Now, I think that was one of the major disappointments that I had with, the way his character turned out, especially in The Last Jedi, where basically he amounted to being this old hermit who, felt like a failure because of the way that Kylo Ren, aka Ben Solo, turned out to be, and I feel like he still didn't get a lot of screen time. To see him die at the end of The Last Jedi, it was probably one of my major disappointments with, his character. But when he did return to Rey as a Force ghost, and he helped her by lifting his old X-Wing that he left on the island, to give to Rey, and I felt like, okay, that was a total Return of the Jedi moment where, Yoda basically did the same thing for Luke before confronting Vader, and now she's got to confront Palpatine. I think that's the other reason why these movies ended up the way they did. They just ended up like rehashes of the original trilogy. I did like also seeing a moment where Luke does train Leia at some point, and I'm thinking, okay, so if she knew how to use a lightsaber, why did she have to do her Mary Poppins in space routine in The Last Jedi? I mean, it's just so Disneyfied that, it almost made me hate the way that they CGI'd, that whole segment in de-aging them, and I feel like Leia looked a lot worse in this movie, as far as the flashback scene goes, as compared to the end scene of Rogue One: A Star Wars Story. Now, speaking of another female character, I thought that the character of Zori Bliss, or Carrie Russell's character, potentially being connected romantically with Poe, was just pure fan fiction. I mean, it ruins anyone's illusion of seeing a Poe-Finn ship. I mean, I was all about the bromance with them, but apparently Finn had other plans with possibly wanting to have a relationship with Rey, because there was one moment where they're in peril, they're like going down in this like quicksand, and Finn wants to say something to Rey, and I'm pretty sure it's like, I'm going to miss you, or like, I love you, I just wanted to tell you that before we die. So I was like, oh, missed opportunity once again. But if people wanted to see an LGBT kiss more that happened at the end of the movie, I think that just came out of nowhere. And I mean, I've seen Disney pull this stunt before with the Once Upon a Time TV show and alluding to this LGBT relationship with certain characters, and they even did that in the Marvel universe. And I'm just thinking, I mean, I don't have a problem with seeing an LGBT relationship form in these types of movies, and maybe some people do, but I think that if it suits the story, fine, but I feel like they just shoehorn in all these ideas because they want to have this inclusion with their viewers, and I don't know, it didn't exactly impress me with their execution with that. Then we've got a lot of character deaths to discuss in this movie, and I think that's one of the reasons why I got emotional watching this movie at times. And the first off would have to be Leia. And I think I cried more hearing about Carrie Fisher's death than I actually did watching Leia's death on screen. Now, it was a very sad scene because she technically did sacrifice herself so that way Kylo Ren could, her son could, basically do some good with his character, with his interactions with Rey, and then he ends up dying. And it's really sad because, as much as some people might not be a fan of his character, I actually did like the way his character was in this movie, because he was conflicted and yet he still had good in him. So it does have that sort of full circle with the Star Wars movies. Same thing happened with Anakin, where Luke was turning Vader good, and then now Rey wanted to do the same thing with Ben Solo, and just seeing him disappear and just vanish, and all that's left is his cloak. It really did feel sad that that's how it all happened, because he actually did have this really touching moment with Rey. I think the only death that I was not as impressed with was General Hux's, where he just gets blasted in the chest because he ended up being this spy for the rebels, because he was just so sick and tired of Kylo Ren's ways and just everything. And I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of people were kind of sick and tired with the way this series had been going since this new trilogy started. So then this brings me to the third act of the movie, and it actually did get me excited to see, you know, how this battle was all going to end. Was it really going to feel like the ending to Return of the Jedi, where they have to explode yet another Death Star type of thing, or have some kind of lightsaber battle? I mean, it really all did feel like the same thing. But I mean, some of those space scenes were cool, with all of the Star Destroyers all lined up, and then all these ships come in, and we're thinking, where do all these ships in the galaxy come in? I mean, it's crazy. And while that's all happening, we see Rey finally confronting Palpatine, and we find out that she is a Palpatine. I think that's one of the moments where literally all the fans were saying, yep, I knew it. Like, she was either going to be a Kenobi, a Skywalker, or literally, I mean, she couldn't have possibly been a nobody. Like, that would have been so ridiculous to go through 2 Star Wars trilogies being it focused on Skywalkers, and yet the main character isn't a Skywalker herself. But wait, she actually is, because Palpatine created the Skywalkers. So when she eventually takes on that name, I mean, it does seem like it is bittersweet, but it's also kind of like, at times, like, no duh. Like, of course she was going to be a Skywalker. She was going to feel, you know, like she is a part of that family, so that way she wouldn't have to be associated with this guy who apparently had a son, and his son, you know, got married, and they had a kid, ended up being Rey, had to put her on the planet to protect her from the Emperor ever finding her. And so that's another throwback to the, you know, the prequel trilogy, Revenge of the Sith, and what happened with Luke and Leia being separated, because I could have sworn, like, she was, you know, related to Kylo Ren in some way, like they were brother and sister or twins or something, but they're actually, like, cousins. So finally seeing who her parents really are, you know, it was kind of a relief to see that, but it also sort of felt underwhelming at the same time, and I feel like that whole reveal was underwhelming as well, because we kind of already predicted it. Either that or she was a clone, and I'm pretty sure I saw plenty of Palpatine clones or Snoke clones in, you know, Palpatine's lair, in his new digs, because the Death Star is destroyed, and they went there, and, you know, didn't really do much with that scene. But when Kylo Ren and Rey kiss, speaking of probably a more, I guess, a kiss that's suitable for this movie, but also kind of unnecessary, because it just felt like pure Disney magic. Like, I mean, really, it looked like a Disney kiss to me, and trust me, I've seen plenty of Disney movies where they acted just like that. And then after that, because Kylo Ren ended up, you know, kissing Rey back to life after the Emperor, you know, basically tried to kill her when they were all sort of bonding in this, like, force. And then they have, like, these healing powers, and it's also convoluted and weird. But I think what made it even crazier was hearing all the voices of the previous Jedi returning to help Rey take on the Emperor one final time. And I mean, I thought it was kind of cool. Like, that was one of the best parts of the movie, I think. Just really had my jaw dropped because it was, you know, you're hearing Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're hearing Yoda, you're hearing Luke. Then when they ended the movie, Rey gets to go back to the place where it all started in the original trilogy, where she ends up getting these two lightsabers. One ended up being this like orange color, which I found to be really weird because it's not your signature blue, green, or purple, or red. This is a place with the two suns where she declared her name to be Skywalker, and then she sees the Force ghosts of Luke and Leia together. And it still makes me wish that there was a scene where Luke, Leia, and Han Solo could have all been together and reunited. And so I don't know what you can do about that, but it's just unfortunate that Disney decided not to go down that route, because that would have been pure fan service right there, and that probably would have made a lot of fans happy to see that. I kind of blame the way that the studio created this story once again to be another rehash, because Disney is doing that a lot, like remaking things and rehashing things over and over again, so I'm not really surprised. So overall, I would say that I still stand firm on my rating for this movie being a 2.5 out of 5. It's still not the best Star Wars movie, but I don't think it's the worst, but it's definitely down there with being just one of those movies that I feel like they really could have reshaped it to be something better than what it was. But I really hope you guys enjoyed my spoiler review. And if I missed things that you guys picked up on while watching the movie, definitely leave comments below. What did you guys think of The Rise of Skywalker? So thank you for watching this video. And as always, you guys can subscribe to my channel. I've got more movie reviews, movie updates. Come back every week for a Trailer Thursday video. You guys can also like me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter. And I will see you guys later.